Okay, here is the next video in the on the assignment. This is just an overview of some of the historical thinking skills and reasoning processes that you're going to need to master over the course of the year. I do not expect that you will master them over the course of the summer and the summer assignment. These are things we're going to work on continuously, and that hopefully by June or by May you have internalized these and really have a good handle on being able to use them. Okay, so starting with the historical thinking skills, and in your course and exam description, this is in the early the early materials of the thing before you get into the units. These are the 6 skills that you're really going to learn and work on and develop over the course of the year, and I will get into each one individually. We're going to be looking at developments and processes, sourcing and situation, claims and evidence in sources. We're going to look at contextualization. We're going to look at making connections, and we're going to look at argumentation. Okay, so developments and processes. This is simply the identifying and explaining of historical concepts or developments or processes. Really managing, this is where we manage the facts of history, the times and the dates and the people and things like that that are going on. Okay. Sourcing and situation. This is a very document-heavy course. Okay, we're going to do a lot of reading, and we're going to read a lot of primary source and secondary source documents, and try to explain the significance of the source's point of view, the purpose of the source, the historical context of the source, or the audience. And we're going to use an acronym that I like to call CAP, which is simply context, audience, purpose, point of view. We will spend a good deal of time during the school year trying to master each of those. Okay? Claims and evidence and sources. After you interpret the documents and you use your content knowledge of the process and stuff like that, we're going to look at these sources, and we're going to try to identify and describe and make a claim or argument in the source. We got to figure out what the source is arguing. Okay, we're going to identify evidence used in the source to support an argument that you're making, and then we're going to try to compare arguments or main ideas of 2 sources, and we will try to, if we really get going, and those of you that really master this, you'll be able to explain how claims or evidence support, modify, or oftentimes refute each other. Okay. Contextualization, something that a lot of people struggle with, but we're going to really focus on trying to get you good at it. Okay, and this is simply identifying and explaining the historical context of a specific historical development or process. What is historical context? This is what's going on about the document or about the issue, and we'll get into this in more thing, and I have a couple of things there. You're going to try to explain how a specific historical development or process is situated within a broader historical context. And for some examples of what we're talking about here, those of you who are into Star Wars, think about that opening crawl they always have, where they tell you kind of the events that led up to what's going on that's going to go on in the movie, or when a TV show that you watch says previously on or last week on. That's the context, and we're going to work on building that and developing that as we go along through the course. The next thing, and one of the most important processes and things here, is to make connections in AP World. It's really identifying patterns among or connections between historical processes or development. And then explaining how a specific development or process relates to another development or process. Okay, and then finally we're going to put all that together into an argument. And the idea is to make a historically defensible claim, what we call a thesis, and then support an argument based on using specific relevant evidence, oftentimes the documents. Okay, you're going to use historical reasoning to explain the relationships between the evidence, and I'll get into what I'm talking about by reasoning in a few minutes. And then you're going to either corroborate, qualify, or modify an argument using evidence to develop a really complex argument. You're going to try to do more than just the cause and effect, but really dig deeper into where they go along. Okay, so All these skills are needed for success in AP World. You may have some of them now in a raw form. Some of you may already have a lot of them. But we're going to develop those over the course years. You're going to learn how and when to use them as the course progresses. For now, I'd just like you to have some familiarity with what the expectation is going to be. And the best part of this is that if you're planning to take AP US in 11th grade, everything's the same. The processes, the reasonings, and all the rubrics are the same. So if you master them in 10th grade, you're going to be able to even do better in 11th grade, because then you can refine your craft. Okay? So that brings me to the reasoning processes in AP World History. Okay? And there are 3 of them. All right? 3 processes. We have comparison, similarities and differences, causation, cause and effect, and continuity and change, which is often the toughest one for people to get. And again, we'll spend time during the year on that. For right now, I just want you to have some familiarity with the terminology. All essays, all short answer, excuse me, and all multiple questions are going to ask you to do one of these in every question, and probably use the other thinking skills, and then you'll be using, each of them will be based on one of the themes that I will get to in yet another video. Okay, so comparison is simply describing similarities and or differences, sometimes it's one or the other, between different historical developments or processes. Explain relevant similarities or differences between different historical developments or processes. So you got to describe, then explain, and then explain the relevant historical significance of those similarities and differences between the different developments and processes. Next one, probably the one you're most familiar with, is causation. Okay, this is describing cause and or effects. Sometimes it's one or both. Okay, of specific historical developments or processes, and then you'll explain the relationship between the causes and effects. Okay, and then you may explain the difference between primary and secondary causes, or between short and long-term causes of an event. You also may have to explain how relevant historical content influence a specific process or a development, and you may have to explain the relative significance. You're definitely going to have to do the significance of different causes and effects. And then finally, and probably the most difficult one for most people, is what we call continuity and change. Okay, this is describing patterns of continuity, things staying the same, and or change over time. How do things either stay the same or change over time? And then explaining those patterns, and then explaining the significance of those patterns, or maybe into the larger pattern of continuity and change. Okay, so that is your historical reasoning and your historical thinking skills. The next video will be on the themes of AP World.